We start with the quarterbacks. And I don't even know if we will call it a competition. I'll leave that for you. Caden Salter, Juju Lewis, he won't be 18 till, I guess, like October. I mean, that's kind of crazy. So what are you learning about that quarterback battle as we head into camp, and what do you expect?
Yeah, the quarterback battle, it got to start in spring ball as it does, but because Deion Sanders hasn't been around, right, he himself hasn't been able to see, like, they haven't started fall camp yet, but there's been other things that maybe could help set themselves apart. But he admitted at Big 12 Media Days, he's like, I don't know who's going to be the starter. That's why they brought both of them. I had never seen, and P, you've been doing this longer than I have. Have you ever seen a program bring two quarterbacks to a conference media day? Usually you bring zero if you don't have one, right? So that was a little shocking. I expect Caden Salter to win the job. He's more experienced. He's a dual threat quarterback. I mean, Julian Lewis can move and throw in his own right. But like you said, Julian Lewis, I mean, by the time Colorado plays Georgia Tech in a month, Julian Lewis in actuality should be preparing for, like, I don't know, U.S. history or whatever senior year class you take in high school, because should be a senior in high school. And I think that's a testament to how good he is, how mature he is. But I think if you're Colorado, you don't want to throw him into the fire too soon, right? And you have a guy in Caden Salter who was the Conference USA MVP a couple years ago, one of the best dual threats in the country, and a guy who's looking to bounce back after a not so great year last year, right? I think he performed well, but not up to his standard. So I expect them to go with Salter. He's experienced. He brings a lot with his legs. And it also doesn't throw your 17-year-old quarterback into the fire right away, because the worst case scenario is you throw him in, and we saw this at Utah with Isaac Wilson. We kind of saw at Nebraska with Dylan Raiola. As soon as they struggle, it's like, okay, now what? Because we anointed them as the starter, and we anointed them as the guy, and now they're struggling, and now their confidence could be shot, right? So I think that's the risk you run.
I feel like I mentioned the word continuity earlier with Coach Prime's health, but there's certainly continuity now in the coaching staff, right? Like Pat Shurmur, Robert Livingston, both back. I feel like they've really got solid footing there. Who are going to be the leaders now to emerge on either side of the ball amid this roster turnover that those guys, those two great coaches now with NFL experience, can lean on?
Yeah, I think for one, offensively, you have to look at Jordan Seaton. He was a starting left tackle last year as a true freshman. It was a freshman All-American, was Deion Sanders' big recruit, right? He was the 5-star offense lineman that they got over Ohio State. They got over his home state of Maryland. All the big programs were after him. He picked Boulder, picked Colorado. I think he steps up as a leader. Obviously, it's not like the sexiest position offense lineman, but the big boys need some love too. And defensively, they have a lot of guys, right? They have DJ McKinney, who's probably one of the best corners you've never heard of. And if you haven't heard of him, you should, because he's probably going to be a first or second, possibly third round pick. He's really good.
Coach Prime was talking about him a lot on Media Day.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah. He's good. And I think he's going to step up as a leader. I also think you look for a guy like Tafik Bayard, who he's new to the team. Had him on my show a while back. And one of the very first things he said to me was, I want to be a leader on this team. And he's like, that sounds corny. That sounds cheesy, but he's like, that is my goal. I want to be a leader. And during the spring game, he was leading by example. He was playing well. And I think those are the handful of guys that I would lean on, because offensively, you're replacing 4 offensive linemen. You're replacing 4 wide receivers. You have your running back situation's the same, but it wasn't that good last year. A new quarterback. Defensively, you're replacing Travis Hunter again, both safeties, both linebackers, and a few defensive linemen. So there's a lot of new faces in the mix.
How is, when you look at the portal, with all those absences you mentioned this year, how has the portal helped that situation? Has there been a real influx of talent that nobody's going to fill Shadur or Travis Hunter's shoes, but can someone come in there and hold the place while this team tries to compete in the Big 12 for a title?
Yeah, I think this is probably their most complete portal class, honestly. They went in and they grabbed, I want to say it's 10 to 12 offensive linemen. So they're really hoping that they need a combination of 5, right? That's all you need. They just need one combination to work. And I think this offensive line group will end up being the best one, which has been their biggest problem. Shador Sanders was sacked 94 times in 2 years. So there's that. In terms of overall talent, I think people need to sort of get out of that mindset of replacing Travis and Shador, because I don't necessarily think you replace them. I think you just have to find someone who could fill in there, right? Like you're not going to replace Travis Hunter with one player. You're going to need multiple corners to step up, multiple receivers to step up. But this group is really good. It's really talented. They really, I think they've mastered their science of the portal. Year one, it was kind of like take anyone with a pulse who has interest in Colorado. Year two was like, okay, we want to focus on the trenches, but I don't think they really refined what that meant. And then year three, it's like we want guys who have played a lot in the trenches, SEC, Big Ten, and or other guys like Xavier Hill, who was a All-American or the American Conference, offensive lineman there. It's still weird to say that. Very patriotic of them, but very weird to get used to a month before the season. But they have a lot of talent. They have depth. And I think Deion Sanders said at Big 12 Media Day, this team is better than what they've had in years past. They just won't have the star power.
So I love that point because, and not the best comparison, but Jerry Jones talks about the Cowboys organization like it's a machine, right? Mm-hmm. And the players get plugged into the machine. Like a lot of times that's what happens in college football, like Ohio State, Texas, like these are machines, these successful programs. When you look at Colorado, since the acquisition of Deion Sanders and all that comes with him, that is becoming a machine now. And so even though you lose a couple sexy pieces like Travis and Shedeur, is there something, and this is a question for you and someone like you can answer, is there something building there where the infrastructure of that program, right, is all of a sudden going to become so good that they're going to be winning the games in the trenches this year, right? That they never had the opportunity to do that before because they just didn't have the horses. Is there a chance that this team is actually better than last year because of some of those parts that people don't talk about as much?
Yeah, and I think to credit Travis and Shedeur and Shiloh and all the guys from last year, I think they laid the foundation, right? They set this team up to succeed. They showed that, hey, you can win here, right? I think 2 years, or would it be 3 years ago now, Colorado was 1-11, the worst team, probably in one of the worst teams in college football history. Deion Sanders comes in, turns things around, and he was talking a lot, and people needed proof of concept. Well, Shedeur and Travis gave him proof of concept, and now I think you hit it on the head. There is proof that they can win here, so there is proof that there's something being built, and I think that goes from year to year. And this team, I think by being more well-rounded, they probably can eclipse or get close to last year's team in terms of success, right? It all comes down to how they handle their schedule. They have a couple tough stretches here and there, right? They end the year with Kansas State and Arizona State. The scheduling gods did them no favor there. But they open the year with Georgia Tech. So they're going to have to take advantage of winnable games, and they're going to have to steal a couple games here and there. And I think that comes down to being a well-rounded team, right? You're not going to, at the same time where they don't have as much star power, you should be more balanced, which means you shouldn't have to rely on Shedeur Sanders throwing up a Hail Mary against Baylor and Travis Hunter forcing a fumble against Baylor in the same game to win a game. So they should be able to replicate success and do it differently.
Couple more questions for you. I'll get you out of here. 6.5 wins is the Vegas over-under. You got them over that or under that?
I have them over. I currently have them sitting at 7-5, 8-4. So I really think I like their offense line. I do. I could be getting tricked into it for the second straight year, but I think this year's group is different. And I just like the overall talent that they brought in. I think they understood, hey, we don't have the stars, so we're just going to have depth. And I don't think having depth ever hurts a team.
How have you seen Coach Prime grow as a college football coach in his role at Colorado? Is it a delegation thing? Is it a let me take more responsibility here? What have you seen from him since he's been at Colorado where he's grown as a coach?
Yeah, I would say it's his delegation ability and his game plan or his game management, excuse me. Delegation wise, he's totally fine with being Pat Shurmur, you're a former NFL head coach, call plays, do your thing. I'm sure he weighs in on it because Deion Sanders was the offensive coordinator for his son in high school, but he lets Pat Shurmur do his thing. And then Robert Livingston had NFL teams coming after him, right? So he knows what he's doing when it comes to crafting up a defense. And I think Deion Sanders offers insight when he can, and obviously he can because he's one of the best to ever play, but he lets those guys cook, for lack of a better term. He lets his coaches coach, and he contributes when he feels like he has to. And then game management wise, Colorado in 2023 was just horrendous game management wise. They took unnecessary risks with time winding down in the first half. Like I still remember, and people are going to be like, what is this guy talking about? But they played Oregon State and they had an opportunity to keep it a 1-score game right before halftime, and they were in their own end zone. Instead, they threw the ball 3 times, went 3 and out. Oregon State scores a touchdown, and all of a sudden they get the ball back up 14 in the second half. So they mismanaged that. They had a lot of penalties. They had a lot of illegal substitution stuff. So they are very much all about discipline. They were still penalized heavily last year, but it was a lot less of stuff that the coaches could have prevented, right? And so I think he's evolved as a game plan or a game management coach as well.
And that was another point of emphasis by Deion Sanders at Media Day, like a little more discipline, right? Like staying more focused, not making any mistakes. Okay, so last question for you. Let me give you one more. With Shedeur and Travis out of the mix this year, like, you know, do you continue as the Locked On Buffs guy? Like, will you continue to follow like Shedeur and Travis for content for they're such a big part of Colorado.
Yeah.
You know, like I would imagine there's still a real market for that in what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm definitely following along. It's a little difficult to dive into like the off-season training camp stuff because I'm obviously not there and not super dialed into like Browns stuff, but yeah. I have been following them. Like I do want to keep talking about them because for one, I think for Travis Hunter, you have to talk about him, right? Everybody, everywhere he's ever been says he can't play both ways, and he's doing it at the NFL level. I was one of those people, right? I said an NFL team is going to draft him. They're going to say, hey, we'll let you play both ways. And then as soon as he underperforms on one side of the ball, they're going to be like, okay, we need you to focus on X, right? So I'm going to be dialed in on that. Shedeur Sanders, I mean, that's probably one of the craziest draft falls I've ever seen. I think I personally thought he was a first or second round talent. I think once he fell out of the second, it became more of a personal thing, more than a talent thing. And I'm going to be interested to see how things are handled in Cleveland, right? Cleveland, as we know, is not notorious for nailing their quarterback decisions. So do they give Shedeur Sanders a fair shake, or do they Cleveland Browns it, right? So I'll make sure to be covering that because, I mean, they're two of the best college football players Colorado's ever seen. I think Travis Hunter, and I don't like to throw this word around, I think we as a sports society do, but Travis Hunter is generational. And I think he's worth following regardless of what happens.
How do you think Shedeur will he emerge from camp with a roster spot and an opportunity to contribute for the Browns this year?
I think he'll get a roster spot, especially I think Kenny Pickett just hurt his hamstring, so I think that makes life a little easier for Shedeur.
Funny, as a fan, I'm just kind of like, and God bless Kenny Pickett, but I'm like, yes.
You're just like, so that's an opportunity, right? Yeah. We don't want anyone to be injured, but we're like, that just more reps for Shedeur, right? No, I'm right there with you. So I think he earns a roster spot. I did see somewhere that they'd consider carrying all 4 anyway, so we'll see if that actually happens because I feel like that's a rarity. But I think Shedeur has a long way to go, right? I think when it comes to the NFL, it's all about getting reps. And if you're not getting reps, like I saw something the other day that he's been throwing to equipment managers, right? So you got to be in position to get reps and take advantage of those reps. So the preseason is going to be huge for him. I think he'll stick around. I think he's too big of a name to cut, honestly. Like that hurt. I think in the same way it hurt him in the draft, I think it also helps him. It's like people want to market, right? And when he got drafted, I think I counted on my show that the NFL had posted like 12 videos about him. And it was like, he's a 5th round pick, right? At the end of the day, he's a 5th round pick, and they posted like 12 videos about him within hours, right? So I think he sticks around. I think because the situation is so, I mean, it's the Browns, right? Their quarterback situation's not great. So he'll get an opportunity somewhere down the line. I just don't think it'll be as soon as people want.
All right, Kevin Borba, man, thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk to you today. For real, bro. You bring it every time. Obviously I'm here for you whenever you need me. And, dude, keep in touch. Anything else you want to leave people with?
I guess just stay tuned for today because I'll be going live as soon as we get any clarity on Deion Sanders' situation. So go over to Locked On Buffs and flip that notification button on.
and tell Drake Toll to take it easy on Dave Aranda. All right, tell him you heard. Tell him you heard it from me. All right,
Drake's he's a special breed. You know, he's a special guy.
He's just a wild horse out there.
He is.
All right, KB, take it light, brother.